Okay, so get this. We're talking like major espionage, right?
Yeah.
International intrigue, the whole 9 yards. But with, wait for it, exploding pagers.
Pagers.
Yeah, you heard that right. Not some like 80s movie marathon. We're talking about what's happening in Lebanon right now.
Wild.
Yeah, and to like really unpack this whole thing, there's this NPR article just came across our desks this morning.
Yeah.
Well, let's just dive in.
It's pretty fascinating, right? You've got this almost obsolete technology, but it's right at the center of a conflict with the potential to, I mean, this could reshape the whole region.
And it's not just, geopolitical whatever. We're talking about people, actual lives lost, families shattered. Can't overlook that.
No, absolutely. The human cost it's a tragedy. We're talking multiple deaths here, hundreds injured. And to really understand the gravity of this whole thing, we got to zoom out a little for context.
So break it down for us.
So basically, you've got Lebanon caught in the middle of this huge conflict, right? Israel, Hezbollah. It's been simmering for decades.
Hezbollah, for those of us who, need a little refresher.
Right. So they're this powerful, I guess you could say, political and militant group based in Lebanon, backed by Iran, and they have a very, shall we say, complicated history with Israel.
So decades of tension, to put it lightly.
Exactly, yeah. Decades at least. And then you throw in the recent Hamas-Israel escalation, and, well, you've got a tinderbox. Anything could set it off.
And that anything, in this case, is something most of us haven't even thought about in years. I mean, seriously, exploding pagers. Is this like 1989?
I know, right? It sounds like we're in some spy movie. But this almost vintage tech is a major part of how Hezbollah operates and how, it seems, Israel is trying to, well, disrupt that.
So let's get into it. Why is Hezbollah clinging to technology that's like older than I am? Okay, so they're trading in their iPhones for like beepers. Is that what we're saying?
It's all about security, or at least how Hezbollah sees it. They don't trust digital tech, at all. They think anything digital can be compromised, especially by, Israeli intelligence.
So ditch the smartphones.
Yeah.
Go retro. I mean, I get being a little wary of like big tech and all that, but this seems a bit extreme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it might seem like a huge step back in time, but to them, it's strategic, trying to stay under the radar in a world where everyone's online, everything's trackable. I mean, even Nasrallah, their leader, he straight up told his people, cell phones, deadly spies. That's what he called them.
Wow, okay, no more TikTok for those guys, I guess. But still, pagers, how are they even using those to, actually get anything done?
Think of it like a really basic, secure, one-way messaging system, right? So they can get instructions, updates, whatever, without having to worry about, anyone listening in. And we're not just talking about the top brass here either.
Wait, you're saying even your average Hezbollah member was using these things?
Exactly. This NPR piece, it highlights how big this pager network really was. It was a huge part of their infrastructure, which also made it, a prime target.
Right. Okay, so you've got Hezbollah holding on to this vintage tech for dear life, and then boom, the pagers start blowing up.
Yeah.
But this wasn't just a one-time thing, was it?
No, not at all. You look at the timeline NPR put together, it's pretty unsettling. So you have the first wave of explosions, that was Tuesday. Then, they wanted to really drive the point home, another wave on Wednesday.
Another Wednesday, the very next day.
Yeah, and get this, one of the explosions on Wednesday, it happened at a funeral for the victims of the first attack.
That's just cold, straight out of a nightmare, right? Like sending a message.
Totally. This was about more than just disrupting communications. This was psychological warfare, showing them that nowhere, and I mean nowhere, was safe.
Okay, but here's the thing, right? Israel's playing this super cloak and dagger game. No one's officially confirmed anything, but come on, it's pretty obvious, right? So what are they playing at? What's the strategy here? It's like they're trying to stay just on the right side of, being like, who, us?
Right. In that NPR article, one of the U.S. officials, and this is off the record, obviously, but they basically said, yeah, it was Israel.
Not exactly a denial.
And even without, outright saying it, some of these Israeli officials, they're not exactly hiding it. I mean, Gallant, the defense minister, he was talking about, excellent achievements, a new era, give me a break.
Yeah, subtle, not so much. So what are they trying to do? What's the end game with this whole exploding pager thing?
Well, it's probably a few things. Part of it is, deterrence. They hit Hezbollah where it hurts, right in their comms, and that sends a message. We can get to you anytime, anywhere.
Like a warning shot, but with, more explosions.
Yeah, and it kind of forces Hezbollah's hand, right?
Mhm.
Pushes them to maybe overreact, do something that gives Israel an excuse to, well, retaliate even more.
So back them into a corner, see what they do.
Maybe, and this was interesting, the NPR piece touched on this. There's some debate even within Israel about all this. Like some of their experts are saying, okay, this pager thing, it's disruptive, but is it really a long-term solution?
What happens when Hezbollah ditches the beepers? Then
Yeah.
what?
Exactly. And that leads to this whole other debate they're having about a security zone. Basically, some people want to go even further, like they did in Gaza, create that buffer zone inside Lebanon.
So, like, take a page from the Gaza playbook, but, I mean, Lebanon's not Gaza, right?
Completely different.
Yeah.
And frankly, the idea of trying to carve out some kind of buffer zone in Lebanon, logistically, politically, it would be a mess. And that's, best case scenario. Could easily blow up in everyone's faces.
Yeah, no kidding. So where do we go from here? How does Hezbollah even begin to, like, come back from this?
Well, first they have to figure out how this even happened. Someone was sloppy, someone talked, and they're going through their ranks right now trying to find out who.
Yeah, noise sets in.
Yeah, big time. But beyond that, some kind of retaliation, it's coming. Guaranteed. The question is, what's that look like? Direct attack on Israel? Or do they go after, Israeli interests somewhere else? Do they escalate things or keep it low-key? And then there's Iran.
Yeah, they can't be happy about this. Their allies getting hit like this.
Hezbollah is like their main man in the region. It's how they exert influence. Plus, and the NPR report brought this up, they're still pretty sore about that Hamas leader, the one who was killed in Iran. They haven't retaliated for that yet. And this might be, the last straw.
So to bring it all back home, what does this all mean for, the average person trying to keep up with the news?
This is a prime example of just how precarious things are in that region. Seriously, this whole thing started with exploding pagers and could end up, well, who knows? It could easily spiral into something much, much bigger.
Talk about a blast from the past with some seriously scary implications for, well, everyone. It just shows you we're living in a world where, yesterday's tech can suddenly become today's headline. And the stakes, they just keep getting higher.
Really makes you think. It's so important to really try to understand everything that's going on, the history, the politics, the human cost. It all matters.
It really does. Well, there you have it, everyone. A deep dive into a story that's equal parts bizarre and terrifying. And trust us, this is far from over. Make sure you're following along as this unfolds because, as we've seen, even something as unexpected as, well, exploding pagers can have ripple effects around the world. And to really get the full picture, definitely check out that NPR article. We'll link it in the show notes. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, thanks for diving in with us.